This is Ankita, and you are tuned in to Prickly Pears, the podcast where we celebrate uninhibited brown women and their prickly points of view. This is season 1, My Mother Said. This season, we are covering everything some mothers have told us that we don't agree with and would not repeat to our daughters or to any other girl, woman out there. We talk about what was said, why it may have been said, and how do we break the cycle of the same things being said again. However, before we get into our episode today, which promises to be a really good one, I want to take a minute to say a big thank you to all our listeners out there. Thank you so much for sharing your feedback, your kind words, and just how you feel listening to our episodes. Every single feedback we've received so far has brought a smile and a reflection to both Nalini and I, and you make it all worth it. Like, the amount of messages I've received has been so overwhelming that there is no possible way I can record yet another episode without saying thank you first. Right from the time we released to now, we are eternally grateful to everyone who took their time to listen to us and tell us how you felt about it. So please, please, please keep the feedback coming. Tell us how you find our episodes. If you have ideas for future seasons, send that across too. We just love hearing from you. And with that, I'm going to jump straight into our episode for today. This is with Rashmi Raghav. I am so excited to have you on the show today, Rashmi. How are you doing?
Hi, Ankita. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm great today. I'm so looking forward to have this amazing conversation with you.
Me too. I had so much fun on our first call that I knew we had to get you onto the show and to this episode. But before we jump into what your mother said and the impact it has had on you, could you please share a little bit about yourself with our listeners?
Okay, this is resilient Rajput Rashmi Raghav. So it's of all together 4 R's in my name. Every R has a story inside it. I'm a loving wife of an amazing husband and a mother of two beautiful children. Apart from being a mom, wife, sister, daughter, and sister-in-law, I profoundly believe that everyone has their own identity. So for that, I would like to say I am a person who call myself as a human connector because I strongly believe in human connection. So that's me, Rashmi Raghav, and professionally, I'm a soft skill master trainer and an emotional intelligence coach. So here I am today in front of you all, and we'll share a lot with Ankita.
I love the 4 R's, and we are 100% going to get into some, if not all, the 4 R's. But jumping straight in, Rashmi, tell us, what did your mother say?
My mother. When I recall my mother, because she holds a big space in my mind and my heart as well, definitely in my life. A very brave, bold, beautiful, and fearless woman who completely has a different perspective, completely different from me. I can never ever match the way she looked into the life. I'm an EQ coach today. It was not accidentally happen. It is meant to be because I was a very emotional person, very sentimental person. Later on, I realized how empowering emotions are because throughout my life, I saw it as a taboo to be an emotional person, sentimental person. It's a weakness. But no, it's not a weakness. It's a great thing to be there. It's very empowering. So my mother was like, and being a Rajput as well, she was always used to say, darte nahi hai, don't be scared. And if I'm crying, she was always like, don't cry. Rajput doesn't cry. Rajput never fear from anything. Rajput don't scared from anything. And there were some traditions and rules and regulations because I belong to a very typical North Indian Rajput family in which everyone comes first and you comes later. So it is like, think about others first. You come later. So this was something maybe I would not say, and I not say to my daughter. I have a beautiful daughter of 14 years old, which my mama say, because I have a strong reason behind it. Maybe we will reveal it in our conversation, Ankita.
Absolutely. I definitely want to cover as many stories as we can. But you started by painting a beautiful picture of your mom. Let's add a few more details to the picture. Tell us a little bit about her life growing up. What was it like? We'll try and hypothesize maybe why she said what she said, because I can only imagine the impact it has on a child when the mother says, "Be brave, don't cry."
My mom, I'm getting the goosebump because now, after being an emotional intelligence coach, I'm very much able to understand her perspective, the way she looked towards the life. Everything has a deeper connection to her childhood. My mom, she was blessed with a big family, seven siblings, and she was the eldest. But unfortunate event happened in my mom's life when she was 11 and 12 years old. Her mother started having kidney issues and asthma issues, my grandma. So because of that, she was bedridden for a longer time. So who will take care of the siblings? Because the youngest one, my youngest mama, he was just few months old that time. So because of all those responsibilities, mommy was eldest in the family, and my grandfather was a very renowned farmer from that town. So he always he has to spend a lot of time in the farming and managing all those things. And Nani was bedridden, so she had to left her study to take care of her siblings. And I forgot to add on one thing, because for my mom, study comes first than any other thing. Study hard, study hard, study hard. So Ankita, throughout my life, she was so much strict towards our study, especially for me. She never allowed me to look to the right and look to the left, and what is extracurricular activities that I get to know after I had my kids. I'm a Toastmaster also. In Toastmaster organization, you need to deliver speeches and share your perspective. So when I was sharing one speech, I get a project. So I talked about my mom, and I realized when I was writing that speech, because she was not able to, she wanted to study, but she couldn't. And that was the reason I realized recently in past 2 years, that was the reason she was so much focused for my study. So every human behavior has a deep down reason, and the roots, most of the times, roots belong to the childhood, how they have been conditioned, how they have been in their upbringing was. So that was the reason she was very strict, because being connected to the Rajput family, tradition comes always first. You think about yourself later, you eat later. First, you like to, if you are thirsty, if you're hungry, you need to offer the food to others first, then your turns come. She was from that background. Somehow, she was imposing and she was conditioning me in the same way. Whatever she received, she was giving me. And she was very strict. She was not a mom who cuddles you, who gives you a hug. I never remember a kiss from her, never ever, Ankita. When I became mom and when I became the emotional intelligence coach, when I read more and more about the human behavior and the emotions, then I get to know no, she was trying to nurture her in her possible the best way she could. But because she was conditioned and raised up in a different way, and that's why she was giving us what she has received. I'm trying to break that generational trauma, I would say, because I don't want to give all the things which I have received. Being a Rajput mom, it's a challenge, but it's interesting. Back to you, Ankita.
You said your mom's still around, so I'm really curious. Has she changed? Does she express emotions now, or is it the same as she was?
She is still same, Ankita. It's, I have been married for 15 years. Every time when I'm in India and my father is coming to drop us to the airport, my father cried. But my mother, she never shed a tear. This time also, recently I visited her in August. She got her both knee replacement surgery. So I have been there, and I remember so many times my dad came, and I shared a post in the social media as well on Facebook. He's a very emotional person. He cry when I sit with him. I feel that warmth and emotions. But my mom, still the same.
I have to ask, have you ever had this conversation with her? Have you asked why do you never show your emotions?
I'm still gathering the courage, Ankita.
Maybe after this episode, you can have a conversation with your mom and tell her, Mom, I want to say something. Can you please listen to this episode?
I'm visiting again in December, so I would like to try.
And if you do, you have to come back and let us know. Thank you for painting such a beautiful picture of your mom and her life. I'm now really curious to go into the impact it has had on you growing up. And also, actually, have you ever told your kids Rajputs are brave or Rajputs are like X?
Uh, Few times. Very proud to be a Rajput. I belong to a community which is known for the courage and the braveness and the life. And being a Rajput is something you are not leading your life for yourself. You are there, your life is there for others. So that is a true meaning of being a Rajput. Whenever I'm talking to my kids, because I am in Malaysia, very far away from India, I'm very away from my family and the culture and the tradition. So I've always tried my best to connect them where I'm coming from, what is the meaning of being a Rajput, and look into the life. It is not always, I'm proud to be a Rajput, belong to this community. You must understand the true meaning of being a Rajput. And it is not, this is something I tell to my kids. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to feel fearful, but which my mother only stopped by using a sentence, Rajput darte nahi hai, Rajput rote nahi hai. But if I'm using darte nahi hai, so I will prolong my communication with her. Ananya, if you are feeling fear, what is the reason behind it? Why this fear is there? Because now I know there are multiple types of fear. If it can be the fear of rejection, it can be the fear of failure, it can be the fear of losing someone very close, it can be the fear of disturbing your normal life. So I try to decode, and I try to teach them how to decode their emotions.
It's absolutely important to learn how to understand emotions right from when we are young. And I know we've switched things around. We started talking about what we would have done differently now. But let's go back to your life. I'm really curious about when your mom said, "Don't be scared." What was the impact it's had on you growing up?
We used to have the sentence, don't get scared, but we never have that chance to sit with her and explore more. Why shouldn't I get scared? What is this all about? We never shared the context in detail because she was so much occupied in taking care of the big family. And so she usually, like, if she is cooking, don't get scared with all these things. This happens. Rajputs are very brave. You are a Rajput girl. So my little mind was always being a Rajput. How it is connecting with my story? Whatever issues I was having that time. Rajput is a different. It's a caste. It's a community. But emotions and being a human and struggling on the real grounds is a completely different story. I would say there are, when we are dealing with our emotions, Ankita, there are mostly the two types of coping techniques we generally go with. First is the bottling up. We just bottle up your emotions one after another in a box, in a bottle. So we call it bottling up. And second one is brooding, when you're constantly thinking about the negative stuff or negative events which is happening, which I went through is just like a bottling up things. I never wanted to go for being a doctor. I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to opt math, but don't wanted to go for bio. But she was the one. And later on, when I figure out, because my grandma struggled through lots of health issues and diseases and illness, so maybe that was the reason she wanted me to see as a doctor. I tried my best, and but I cried a lot when I signed that form. I wanted to be an engineer, but my mom, my bestie, was going to be an engineer. She opted for math, but because my mother wanted to see me as a doctor, so I went for biology. So that emotions just bottling up, just keeping up. I tried for 3 years, but I never was able to get the MBBS rank. Always get stuck to the BDS or BAMS. But she was so determined, more than me. No, no dentist and no BAMS, only for MBBS. You go or not go. So she was leading my life. you know, from that, when I look back on all those scenarios, she was taking the decisions. She was a main person, but I was not able. And that was the time, Ankita, first time I encountered a major depression in my life when I was 19 or 20 maybe. That was the third attempt, and I was not able to get the MBBS rank. And I gave up. I gave up on myself. Because for me, it was like I was not able to fulfill my mother's dream, the biggest dream she was having. And she was there almost 24 by 7, taking care of everything, household chores and everything. She was making sure I'm getting the best coaching center, I'm getting the best books, I'm getting every facility so I can focus on my study. But somehow I couldn't make it. So I was not, it still makes me emotional. I was not feeling sad for myself, I was feeling sad for my mom.
And that's very natural. I think even when I was growing up, not letting my parents down was a big driver for a lot of my actions. And even today, right? Like, there's a lot of guilt associated with not living life where your parents would be proud of. And I've seen this in multiple conversations on this podcast, call it the parent pleasing syndrome or whatever you'd like. Like, people don't want to let their parents down. They are literally the most important figures in our life, even when it comes to love and arranged marriage, for example. And I know you'll talk about that a little later. Like, I have friends who've basically told the man in their life that if my parents don't agree to a relationship, I am going to have to end it because my parents are the most important people in my life. I've obviously spent many more years with them than I have with you. And there's a lot of weight that we place on meeting our parents' expectations. I'll let you get back to your story.
Important thing. And that was the first time I was literally giving up on myself. I was not able to think straight. And she took the decision, now this is the time you should look forward and go for, because togetherly I was doing my graduation as well. So she was there, and I remember she talked to a college in Lucknow, and she asked inquiry. And she was, you remember, you go back to the point, she never completed even the high school. And she was like, if you come across her, she is look highly educated because she has so much knowledge about all the stuff, whatever is going on in this world. That time biotechnology was having a boom, biotechnology, microbiology, everyone were talking about this. And she inquired in that university in Lucknow, and she asked if there is last chance to fill up the form and get my daughter enrolled in. They said, yes, this we are having a few seats, madam. So she was there with me, and took the a train from Meerut to Lucknow with me. We reached there, and she was like ready with everything, with money. And I remember maybe 80,000 rupees she was having cash that time. And that time I was having a different view on the life, 300 kilometers away from a safe and secured family, a girl is now in a hostel. So that was quite a fascinating world for me.
I don't know how many times I'm going to say this through our conversation, but you've painted a vivid picture. I can actually imagine your mom's character, you as a little girl standing next to her being told, Rajputs are not afraid in the kitchen, to the point where, fast forward to when you're 19, 20, and you've begun to lose faith in yourself and are questioning everything, to where your mom comes back into the picture and says, don't worry, we're going to take control, we're going to fix this, gets you admission in the college. And we're all glad it has a happy ending. I think the part that stood out for me in that instance is how our parents try and live their unfulfilled dreams through us. My dad's told me this. He literally said, I couldn't do all of this when I was young, and I want you to have every opportunity to do so, but also make most of that opportunity. And I'm afraid that that's a trap I will fall into. Like, I've had this conversation with my partner saying, do you think we'll actually try and live our unfulfilled dreams through our kids when we have them? And he was like, oh yeah, I would love for the kid to be an F1 racer. And I was like, oh my God. But that aside, I'm curious, what do you wish your mom had said instead of saying, Rajputs darte nahi hai, Rajput rote nahi hai?
I always wished she could have said, it's okay to lose. It's okay to come to second or third position or come It's okay not to be okay sometime. It's okay to cry. It's okay to say no to people when they are disturbing your, threatening your boundaries. It's okay to lose some people if they doesn't meant to be in your life, because you're not here to entertain everyone. I wish she could have really taught me, think first about yourself, self love and self care before I'm jumping to others. That conditioning was so deep to think about others that I lost a connection with myself, which I never want for both of my children. Self love is very important. Fly, you can only fly when you are having the self love. First, love yourself. So it's okay. It's okay if you doesn't belong to the top three category in your class, in your college, in your university. It's okay to cry. I teach to my boy as well. It's okay to cry. It's okay to shed tears. Is that's okay because we are human beings made up of emotions.
And we all have tear glands, irrespective of gender, and we should use them. Rashmi, I could sit here and listen to at least 10 more stories, but I'm keeping an eye on time. So we have time for one more. What's one story you absolutely want to share before I get us out of here?
Hmm. When I was in university doing my masters, and that was the time in the final year my father was looking for a boy, and when he was like he chose Anuj, this is the final boy, and we are going to have your ring ceremony very soon. But when I started talking to Anuj, somehow the frequency was not matching up. The way he used to talk and the way I was talking, or the way we are both are coming from was completely different. So naturally there will be the differences. So after 2 months or 3 months, I was like, Mom, I gathered the courage and I talked to my mom. Mama, this marriage will not work. This marriage will not work. So I don't want to go for this relationship. And she was like, I have been through a lot in my life. She was telling me, this was her dialogue. Been through a lot in my life. There is nothing you cannot achieve. If you are determined to make this relationship happen, you can make it happen. I still remember those words. For her, and that time I was so pissed off, Ankita, because she was like, I thought for a while because I was so young and I don't want to go for this marriage. And she was like showing me my incapability of my young mind caught the different frequency. And again, she was coming, rejecting my point of view. The young blood boils too fast. And I was like so judgmental on my mother's point of view. But I took in another direction. I committed to myself. I was so angry with my mom and father that time. And I promised myself and to them. But I never said this to them. This is the first time I'm verbally sharing it loud. Okay, mommy and papa, if you are forcing me to go for this marriage, I will make it happen at any cost. I will never come back crying and saying anything negative about this marriage, no matter what. I will make it happen. So, since day one, maybe I condition my mind, I will make it happen. No matter what I am going through, I will talk to Anuj, I will talk to this, I will talk to my friends, or I will look for the solutions. Whatever is happening, I will make this marriage happen. I took it like in this way. So I thought that was something. I don't know what to say. It was a good conversation, or the bad conversation, or the challenging conversation. But I took the challenge so seriously. So I'm grateful for that moment with my mom. She challenged me, but she was coming from her own mindset. If you are throwing the challenges on her, she will catch it up at the first hand. She was coming from that thing. Nothing is impossible if you are determined to do. She was coming from that background, but I was different. I was an emotional human being. I'm different. My mother is different. But somehow that moment I challenged myself and I made this marriage happen, Ankita, and I'm here in front of you today.
I'm really glad it worked out because it could go either ways, right? We've heard, you and I have both heard stories, so many of them about You know how people say, yes, I'm going to make this marriage work, but they're trying with the wrong person at the wrong point of time in life. And sometimes it can have drastic
Yes.
consequences. So I'm
Yes.
so glad
True.
that this challenge worked for you. It's been 15 years and you're in a really, really good place right now. And these conversations are not easy, right? Like coming on the show, sharing deep personal anecdotes are an act of bravery. So, in many ways, you are living up to your mom's teachings. And I hope that you have a chance to have a deep conversation with her, share your emotions, and see her share them back with you. I'm going to get us out of here, but before I go, any last words?
The only last word is communicate, and embrace each and every emotion. It's okay not to be okay. We are not robots. This world is running through artificial intelligence, but emotional intelligence is still number one skill in different organization and in our life. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's okay not to be okay. You are human beings. Embrace your emotions. Communicate, because communication is very important. That I'm lacking with my mom, but Ankita challenged me.
And evidence says you're good with challenges.
Yes. So yeah, communicate. Communication is something which helped me to have that beautiful uh, starting with my strange arranged marriage with my husband. Communication was the key. Communication is the key to have a healthy home atmosphere, because we do have raw communication with my children, with my boy, with my husband. Everyone is free to communicate about any topic, but I would gather my courage and I would communicate with my mom. Thank you, Ankita. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here and sharing your story. It was an absolute privilege to have you on the show with us today. That's all from us today, folks. On behalf of Prickly Pears and Rashmi, this is Ankita. We are out.